morning, everybody. Would you like the statement to be in Greek or in English? Which language do you prefer? English, huh? Okay. Why is that? Okay. The initiative of the the Polish presidency to put competitiveness of the European market and European production comes at the right time. And today's meeting will be very much focusing on the competitiveness of this market. Certainly, there are challenges out there. They come through taxation imposed or may be imposed on the European products. And this is the right time for such a conversation within the European member states. We believe, as a Republic of Cyprus, that this needs quite some good management. And we believe also that the European market is quite powerful. It can differentiate itself through technology and other leverages that provide the European market some good competitive, let's say, leverages in order to win the markets. It is something which will be discussed later on today. And we will hear what other member states they have as a view. And we believe that the unity of the European countries, the European Union, is very important in facing these challenges that they are heading towards Europe. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Do you see the EU's approach to China as a way to maybe be more sort of friendly towards Trump to move in his direction?
As long as the competition comes on equal terms from these markets, meaning there are no subsidies which they're coming via other routes, I believe every competition is welcome. And I think that the European industry is can provide can have the differentiation in order to win the market. It is a matter of understanding these strengths that we have in Europe. We leverage on these strengths and we manage properly our areas of development.
Minister, do you expect that ministers of trade and industry might discuss today whether to prolong the suspension of the EU tariffs imposed on American products that will expire at the end of March?
I believe it will be a subject matter for today's conversation, yes. Our position is that we need to listen to what is coming towards Europe and respond accordingly, not in a way which will create friction. It's a matter of managing it properly and respond accordingly to the challenge that is coming towards Europe.
Part of the competitiveness drive is a trade element to it, so the likes of the EU, Mercosur, EU, Mexico. Do you think that the pressure obviously coming from the United States has increased this need for these sorts of deals?
I believe we should wait until we see what is coming through, and we need to respond accordingly. I mean, it's speculating what may be coming through. I believe is not the right way of managing a new, let's say, environment which is coming through trade. Yes. Thank you very much again. Bye-bye.
Kalimera. Good morning. Today, for the first time after I have assumed my duties as the new Deputy Foreign Minister of Greece, I'm participating in a very important meeting in this informal Foreign Affairs European Council for Trade, which is jointly organized with the EU ministers responsible for the internal market and industrial policy. I firmly believe that it is high time to protect European competitiveness. Under the current economic and geopolitical circumstances, we need to work together, united, to work hard in order to protect competitiveness and European economic security for the sake of our countries. Moreover, I would like to talk about the EU-US trade relationship, which will be a part of our discussions and deliberations today in an inevitable way. I would like to stress that the transatlantic partnership is equally important to both sides, namely the European Union and the United States of America. And the Europeans, we should build a united and strong front against any future decisions or developments in this regard. By all means, the policy of tariffs is really negative for both sides, the US and the European Union. Moreover, we are going to discuss about ways of strengthening European competitiveness, focusing on key areas that are really important to our people, to our countries, such as agricultural sector and industrial policy. Last but not least, we are going to exchange views about a delicate political issue, which is a priority of the Greek and European foreign policy, namely the integration of the Western Balkans to the European Union, and particularly the single market. Thank you very much.
Minister, can we ask you a question?
Thank you very much.
Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry from Norway. It's great for us to be here in these very challenging times to talk to my European colleagues about how to solve issues on competitiveness within the European internal market. We are part of the internal market, and for us it's extremely important to talk to our European colleagues in these very special times. So it's great to be here.
What will be your message to the EU partners? What's the Norwegian?
So we are, though we are not a part of the EU, we are a part of the internal market. We trade freely with European countries, and for us this is extremely important in these times that we maintain the internal market and the free flow of goods and peoples between our countries. And this will be my main message today.
Minister, how do you look at the threat coming from the US with potentially tariffs on the EU? This could also affect you, of course, in a very similar manner. How does it feed into the discussions here today?
I think this will be a central part of the discussions today, as it is in so many countries. And again, my message will be that Norway is part of the internal market, and we wish to continue to be so, also when times are challenging.
And how do you keep unity within the European bloc, including you in this for the sake of this question?
I think this will be a major part of the discussions today, and I think we will see that keeping unity within this bloc is very important in these times. So thank you very much.
Minister for Industry and Energy. Very glad to be here to discuss in this very specific format topics about competitiveness and trade. I think that it is very relevant to mix those two dimensions. I think that it's very important that we put forward some proposals and that we discuss the actual content of the Clean Industrial Deal in this format by mixing trade issues with industrial policy subjects. I think that it's very important to do this in this very moment because we need to act and not only to react as Europeans to the geopolitical situation and to the threats that have been put forward by the U.S. administration in terms of the increasing tariffs. I think that we also need to be ambitious in the way we elaborate the measures that will be the content of the Clean Industrial Deal. I think that it's very important that we move forward on the issue of complexity, that we talk about simplification of legislation, of norms, and I'm very happy to discuss this with all my counterparts. Thank you. Moi, je pense précisément qu'on ne doit pas rentrer dans une négociation en faisant des concessions. Je pense qu'on doit déjà attendre les décisions qui seront prises par l'administration américaine sur les tarifs douaniers. Et ensuite, nous établirons une position commune, je l'espère, en européen, mais s'engager dans la discussion en mettant sur la table des concessions, je pense que ça n'est pas la bonne approche. Merci.
Français, English? English, okay. So very glad to be here with my colleague Mark Ferracci that you just heard. Very important, and thanks to the Polish presidency to organize this jumbo council. Very important to gather industry and trade because this is a key topic for Europe. We need in Europe a more effective and a more simplified industrial policy to make our company grow, and at the same time we need an assertive trade policy to have this company in the capability of a trade system and to compete on a level playing field with our international partners. This is why it's so important to have industry and trade at the same time. It will be also very important during this Jumbo Council to talk about the transatlantic relationship, of course. And on this topic, the French position is very clear. We don't want any trade war, which will be no one's interest. And we do believe in cooperation. We do believe that we have to maintain our multilateral trade system, but at the same time, we don't have to be naive, and we must prepare the worst, meaning retaliation if needed. This is what we're going to talk about today.
Given how hard Trump hit some partners in this opening salvo of this global trade war, do you think that the EU response should be as big as the tariff that Trump might impose on the European side?
Well, first of all, it's complicated to talk about response where there is no tariffs to EU nowadays, as it stands. So I'm not going to talk about concrete answer if there is no concrete threat. We do believe in cooperation. We do believe that Europe must first propose a positive agenda, but at the same time, as I said, to prepare the worst meaning retailation. So this is what we have to do today. We have to showcase the world that we are a united European Union, but really united European Union with a common strategy in terms of industry, in terms of growth, in terms of security, and in terms of trade policy.
Part of the purpose of this meeting is tying up trade and competitive policy. If you look at the competitiveness compass, part of that is about diversifying international partnerships, and they specify specifically Mercosur and Mexico. Given what the pressure that we're having or potentially facing from the United States, is there more pressure to accept Mercosur and also Mexico?
We have to stand with our value and what we believe in France and in Europe. France is against this version of Mercosur agreement. To be very clear, it has not changed since the election of President Trump. But at the same time, you're right, we have to diversify our partnership. And we are glad, for example, that the modernization of the Mexico-EU agreement has been done. And France is pro-FTA, and France wants cooperation and wants international trade under rule-based trade system. That's true. And at the same time, we need to defend our own value in terms of environment, in terms of sanitary rules. That's why we are still against, for our agricultural sector, against the Mercosur agreement now.
What would it take to get Mercosur through?
We will have this conversation during the coming months.
Toujours sur les tarifs américains, la France a une ligne assez dure sur la réponse à donner. Et quand le secteur agricole français est très affecté par les guerres commerciales, à quel point, qu'est-ce que vous répondez aux agriculteurs français, aux producteurs de vin?
Je réponds d'abord à notre agriculture que l'agriculture peut être bénéficiaire des accords commerciaux comme elle l'a été sur beaucoup d'accords. J'entends bien. Je l'ai dit, la guerre commerciale n'a d'impact positif pour personne, absolument personne. À commencer par les États-Unis, qui verraient eux-mêmes des conséquences néfastes pour leur propre économie et pour leur propre inflation. La guerre commerciale n'est dans l'intérêt de personne. Et notre position reste très claire. Nous ne souhaitons pas une guerre commerciale. Ce n'est pas parce que vous ne souhaitez pas une guerre commerciale que vous ne devez pas vous préparer au pire et que vous ne devez pas travailler en Européen à des mesures éventuelles de rétorsion. Mais je dis bien éventuelles, parce qu'à l'heure où on se parle, il n'y a pas de hausse tarifaire de la part des États-Unis vers l'Union européenne. Merci.
It's great to be back in Warsaw, and today, as you know, we have very important topics to discuss because trade and competitiveness goes very well together. And you notice that competitiveness is now the most frequently discussed topic, not only on the level of the leaders of the European Union, but in all Council formation. Therefore, I'm very glad that we'll have also the chance to look at what trade could do more for European economy to be more competitive. And then in the afternoon, we will have the opportunity to discuss the EU-US relations. Here, I would like to underscore the importance to start our discussion with the new US administration on real facts and figures, because what is very important to look at it in the whole perspective that our deficit, if you look at it from the perspective of the overall trade representing 1.5 trillion euros, represents only 3% of that sum, because if you take both trade in goods and services, the deficit of the US vis-à-vis the European Union is only 50 billion. So we believe that through constructive engagement and discussion we can resolve this problem. We are prepared for this negotiations, but also at the same time it's very clear that if it would be hit unfairly or arbitrarily, we will respond firmly. I think this was very clearly confirmed yesterday by the leaders, and this would be the topic we are going to discuss also with my European colleagues this afternoon.
Is the Commission ready to propose an extension of the suspension of the tariffs as part of this opening offer to the US administration?
We are not going to speculate on what we might do. We would prefer to have early engagement with our US counterparts. I'm waiting for the completion of the confirmation process for the US Secretary of Commerce. We are ready to engage immediately, and we hope that through this early engagement we can avoid the measures which would bring a lot of disturbance to the most important trade and investment relationship on this planet, upon which more than 4 million people on the both sides of Atlantic depend to have high-quality jobs. So I would have to leave it at this stage here, but I will have a press conference in the afternoon, and I can then debrief you on the reaction also of my colleague ministers.
President Trump wants to listen to the EU, but he just seems to be doing unilaterally.
I think, we have the most massive trade relationship on this planet. So we are talking about more than 30% of global trade, and of course any disturbance in that relationship affects, I would say, the overall economy in the world, and therefore we propose constructive engagement. We are ready for it, and we hope that this would result in a positive outcome. I'm sorry, I will have to run, but we'll have a chance to talk in the afternoon. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Helen Budliger-Artieda. I'm the State Secretary for Economic Affairs, and I'm representing Switzerland here. I want to start by thanking the Polish presidency for inviting us to this very important EU Compet. We are fully committed on our path to a greener environment and to protect biodiversity, but at the same time it's very important that Europe remains competitive, innovative and open as a market. We have to be careful of how much administrative burden we impose on our companies, and I'm hoping to discuss how we can make Europe, when it comes to legislation, administrative burden and red tape, much leaner. Thank you very much.
Minister, we met with President Trump at the
retaliation if needed?
No, so far not. We have a balanced trade when it comes to trade and services. Yeah. So we have our trade in services with the US are balanced. So we are not thinking that we will have any issue. Plus we're sixth largest foreign direct investor in the US. We create a lot of jobs. Thank you. Just less administrative rules. I'll give you an example. I'm told by Swiss SMEs who sometimes act global that they have to have board meetings where they discuss 180 pages of ESG reports during 5 hours. That's too much. I think we have to look at across the board. In Switzerland, the parliament has given us a mandate that we actually have to, look when we legislate, before we start to legislate, at cost benefits. And we're also going to do now extensive study to see, how we can cut down and create smarter regulation when it comes to existing legislation already. Our companies tell us we measure every year bureaucracy, and they tell us it's on the rise, even in Switzerland. Although I think we're still a little bit better off than other countries, I think that's important. Thank you.
Yeah, it seems that the discussions were not really about tariffs alone, but also about other topics like drugs and immigration. But for us here, I think we cannot speculate about what Trump wants. We have to see what's going on, and the EU will not take the first step, but we should be prepared and we should not be naive, and we should respond if necessary.
Minister, do you think that the relationship with China is a bargaining chip towards Trump for the EU?
I don't want to get into discussions about bargaining. The relationship with China is important. And also we have discussions with the US about China, about so I think national security.
It's representing 1.5 trillion euros represents only 3% of that sum, because if you take both trade in goods and services, the deficit of the US vis-à-vis the European Union is only 50 billion. So we believe that through constructive engagement and discussion we can resolve this problem. We are prepared for this negotiations, but also at the same time it's very clear that if it would be hit unfairly or arbitrarily, we will respond firmly. I think this was very clearly confirmed yesterday by the leaders, and this would be the topic we are going to discuss also with my European colleagues this afternoon.
Bueno, make a little statement in English. Yes, good morning. It is a pleasure to be here in Warsaw in this joint meeting of the General Council Affairs between representatives of trade and industry. I think today we are going to have interesting discussions about issues so important, such in this context, in this geopolitical complex context, such as economic security, reducing of critical dependence, and strengthening of our value chain. So we are dealing the path of the compass of competitiveness that was presented by the Commission last week. So I think we are going to have a fruitful discussion. So thank you very much to be here.
Do you think that an extension of the suspension of the tariffs on US products should be part of it? Are you in favor of that?
Well, we are going to have some discussions today. So we are We have to work on certain things, so we have to prepare the strategy, and I think that today discussions are going to be very interesting in that sense. So I'm not going to anticipate because we have to have an open discussion about everything. Okay, thank you.
Well, now if you're looking at the situations with Mexico and Canada, they did want more border control specifically. They got those. So we are. So it seems like they have made some kind of a deal now, and we will have to follow if it's lasting or what happens next. But we are worried that Trump administration is.
We are going to have a interesting discussions about issues so we
Oh, no questions? We're going to discuss with the trade ministers different topics. Also, of course, the relationship with the US. And we should not be naive. The Trump administration has not yet decided anything on Europe, but we should be prepared, but then again, the main message is we should be cooperative. The EU is one of the largest, biggest internal markets in the world, so the EU is important for the US, and so is the US for the EU. So I think we should have a positive, cooperative attitude towards the US, and I hope we can continue to keep trade volumes flowing.
Imposed tariffs, and they were quite tough and quite fast, and now
Yeah, it seems that the discussions were not really about tariffs alone, but also about other topics like drugs and immigration. But for us here, I think we cannot speculate about what Trump wants. We have to see what's going on, and the EU will not take the first step, but we should be prepared and we should not be naive, and we should respond if necessary.
Bargaining chip towards Trump for the EU?
I don't want to get into discussions about bargaining. The relationship with China is important, and also we have discussions with the US about China. About you're talking about export control, I think. National security, international security is. Important in this topic, in this regard, and export control is something that the countries and for the Netherlands decide for themselves in the end.
Prolonged suspensions of tariffs on US products.
Excuse me?
Should the EU prolong suspension of tariffs on US products regarding the students?
Oh yeah. Well, steel is another discussion, and it's a separate discussion, I think, and I will come back to that later.
Trade is obviously having more partnerships with other parts of the world, and I guess there's increased pressure from the United States. Would you say that there's more, basically kind of more of an incentive to push through the likes of the EU-Mercosur deal, which I know the Dutch government has a undetermined position on, but so basically EU-Mercosur, EU-Mexico, are these things that the EU should be pushing through?
Well, the trade relationship between the EU and the United States is an important relationship, and the EU is one of the biggest internal markets. But then again, also there are other countries where we should have trade with, and Mercosur is one of these things. It's sensitive in the Netherlands because it can impact agricultural sector negatively. So we have to look into that separately. But well, there are lots of other markets in the world where we can have trade with, and we are definitely looking at that.
The US imposed tariffs on European products. Is the Netherlands in favor of imposing countermeasures quick and hard?
Well, what's important is that as an EU we stand united and we react united as a whole EU, because the EU is an important market for the United States. So that's what we want to do. Thank you. We are united and we intend to stay united. Thank you.
At the same time? I think we are talking more or less the same because we are both Estonians, but... Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm probably going to repeat what my colleague was just saying, but yes, we'll talk a bit about competitiveness, where from the trade side, which I'm responsible for, I believe certainly as wide and as deep as possible free trade agreements are the key. And actually this might also include, from our point of view, even US. So we'll discuss US today and see how the situation looks. It's no secret it's been extremely turbulent times, and we will probably see more of this coming. And for us, also very important will be all the discussions we'll have with the partners, especially Ukraine, whom we want to support as much as possible on its way into the EU and integrating with the single market. So that's it. Good? Okay.
In fact, the first meeting we have now since the election of President Trump, first physical meeting because we had a phone call. I worked with Donald Trump for years when I was Prime Minister, and if you are weak, he eats you. And if you don't negotiate, he kills you. So, in fact, you need that... he's losing the appetite on Europe. I think this is how we should deal with him, be strong, but being united. I think this is our strength, and being clear that America first doesn't mean America alone, because America needs partner too. And I'm sure we will find positive and constructive solutions, because at the end of the day, if we just have commercial wars, the American taxpayer will have an inflation. And I thought that was not Donald Trump's goal. So we will work.
But I think also for experience as Prime Minister as well, how confident are you that you'll be is going to issue? They're not going to try to cut the Prime Minister visit the
He will try. He will try. That's normal. That's politics. He will try to get better contacts with some persons than with others, and he will be not the first one trying to divide us. But we know that we are strong when we are united. And he knows that he needs also strong partners. I think NATO is also a strong union. We work together with the Americans. And I believe in something, it's like in a wedding. I was a mayor. I did a lot of weddings before being a prime minister. But I was also a lawyer. I did a lot of divorces. And so the most important is to speak together, to exchange together. And when you have problems, because just honeymoon and love is not how a couple is. And when you have difficult moments, to discuss, to be around the table, but to show that there is no one weak partner and strong partner, but there are confident partners who want to work together. This is how we have to work with him, and I'm sure he will understand. He needs partner too, and Europe needs partner too. So I trust the Commission in this field with Stéphane Séjourné, knowing him well as a former Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Maroš, the eternal commissioner, that we will find good solutions.
So the wedding gifts will be very generous?
For the moment, I don't want to be a witness. I don't want to be in a wedding. I'm not for polygamy, but I believe that together we are able to find solutions. If we divide, we are lost. That's how we built the European Union. But the fact was, in 1957, when we created the Union, we know that sometimes it was important to give something up to get something bigger. Now everybody wants something bigger today and doesn't want to give something up. And that's a problem. And so I'm confident that we have to watch ourselves in the mirror. And if we want to stay strong, it will be united. Or we will be weak.
So Trump wants partners, but he's going to be tariffing Mexico and Canada?
That's already amounts. There is a month's break already. So but believe me, at the end of the day, if it's Trump or not Trump, he will be constructive and find solutions. Biden was, with his anti-inflation act, was not the best friend of Europe. So we complain now about Trump, but President Biden was not the most close ally to the European economy with the decisions he took. But now it's the beginning. I worked 4 years with him, with Donald, and we survived. And he survived it too. So I'm convinced that we are all going to survive and we will have a strong economy. It's in the interest of no one trying to weaken someone. And I told you, the best thing is that he's not hungry on Europe.
Even when he hits the EU tariffs, and it looks like it's a when rather than a if, what should he use responsibly? Kind of match the tariffs or have them so-called proportionate, it was a little bit less?
Why should it be less? When I know usually the cleverest is the one who gives up. But here is something where you have to answer. You have to answer. If there are attacks, you need to defend. And at the end of the day, it's not good because the American products, if they are imported in Europe and they get more expensive than the others, they won't be competitive. If the products imported in the United States from Europe getting more expensive for the consumer and they can't buy, I could tell, I'm not the French guy, but I could tell all the bons produits français, all the European products, if they have to pay much more, 25%, 30% more expensive, at the end of the day, it's inflation. And I think that Donald Trump has been elected also to reduce the inflation, not to raise the inflation. So I'm convinced we will. No, we are not at Marrakesh Souk. What we have to offer, we don't offer. We listen, we exchange, we say the things. We don't offer. What? Yes, but for the moment we have the LNG deal, because this is always Europeans' problem. Because I remember when we said we don't need the Russian energy, so we take the American LNG. And now that it's more complicated with America, we will be who's next on our list to be the one. So I think it's important that Europe also thinks about his own energy strategy. We speak about it. For me it's difficult as a Luxembourgish guy because we don't trust for the moment nuclear energy, but this is one alternative for a lot of countries. But as long as it's too long, too expensive and not safe, and we still don't know what to do with the garbage, I'm not in favor. But maybe there will be innovations soon. I have to finish. Do widzenia or something like that.
Hello. I would like to address that today Europe is in a way of a big challenge. Or we will cut our bureaucracies and regulations, or we will keep losing in our competitiveness. Today is very important discussions with other ministers that we have to act now, and we have to be ready to not being afraid of getting our hands dirty by changing this regulation. If we won't change our regulation, we will lose in our competitiveness in a very close future. Thank you.
All right. Labas rytas, good morning. So today at this informal trade and industry ministers meeting, we have a great pleasure to start discussing for better ways to coordinate between industry and trade, between Commission and councils, and it is a discussion that is very much needed. It is a very welcomed effort. It is something where Europe must start to respond. As we have already great work by Commission and by Draghi report, which identified very clear measures which are needed to be taken, and top sectors we need better attention. And from Lithuania's perspective, a few points. First of all, I think we need to have a better focus on business environment as such. We can see that we need to make sure that the European Union becomes a very friendly regulatory framework. We already know and already have clear measures which need to be implemented, but also we hope for a more ambitious cutting of the red tape. Also, from our perspective, when we look at this area, we also see that the defense sector is of critical importance, and we hope to have better measures addressing both a supply side that is needed for the defense sector, but also things which are dedicated to better access to investment in this area. But also we cannot forget our candidate countries, and here we hope for a better integration which will be really prosperous between better coordination and better access between both EU and also, of course, candidate countries such as especially Ukraine. Thank you.
Do you think the China relations that the EU has should be a bargaining chip in negotiating with Trump to avoid tariffs on the EU?
Well, I think today the only thing we can say that we are always now in this new era where all the different measures have to be discussed and valued as opportunities for both EU and each individual member state to take on into this relationship with the new administration with the US.
But do you think that the investigation on the measures imposed by China on Lithuanian products is part of this negotiation with Trump?
Well, at this very moment, I would say it's an ongoing process. I think it's been going more than 1 year, so it's not really a new topic to discuss, but hopefully, and I really do hope that it will be resolved in the future. Thank you.
Informal Trade and Competitive Council. Obviously, we have a very full agenda to consider over the duration of the day. From Ireland's perspective, it is so important that we maintain the competitiveness of the single market, but also ensuring that we have the integrity of the level playing field. That's critical to the success of all the countries within the Union. Also, we see in terms of the discourse between the EU-US transatlantic relationship, we know that is the engine powerhouse of the global economy. It's the largest global trading relationship, and it is critical that we protect it and keep negotiations open in terms of the trade council that currently exists to de-escalate any tensions that might be there, because it is a relationship that we have to protect. It's one that can benefit all citizens throughout the EU, and it is the gateway to 500 million people of a marketplace, which is very significant in terms of the context. And from Ireland's perspective, we look forward to working with the US administration through our colleagues in Europe as well, and we will be having good discussions here today in that regard. Thank you very much.
No, because when you look at services, you have to look at the total trade relationship. And when you look at trade in terms of goods and services, there's a very significant surplus in favour of the US, well over €100 billion. And that's the critical thing of trade. It is a two-way street, and it's important when you capture that relationship, you're looking at both sides.
Do you expect coming out of this meeting with a strategy to negotiate with Trump in terms of what should be offered to the US administration?
So obviously we have to have our discussions within the context of our ministers right across the table. But I think it's very important, as I said, the Trade and Technology Council was a very established structure under the Biden presidency, and whatever iteration that continues in, I think it's an important structure to work with the US administration. Also, it's critical that we do demonstrate the importance of trade. We come from a country that has a very open economy, so we at every hand's turn counter protectionism and try and ensure that we are open, competitive, and that we demonstrate how much trade really lifts society and ensures that everyone within the country and within the union benefits from a very strong relationship, because it is the powerhouse, it is the engine, that transatlantic relationship, which is so important.
What can you offer the United States to ward off tariffs or tariff threat, which looks like it's a way rather than
I don't think it's about offering anything at this point in time. Obviously, there is a lot of unknowns in the context. What I said, which is critical, is that we keep the lines of communication open, and that's what we're very much focused in our new government in Ireland. With our new Trade Minister, our Taoiseach Simon Harris, is working very closely with the administration and ensuring that any tensions that may exist, that we discuss them, work them out, and ensure that we see the benefit of that very important relationship.
Do you think Trump is willing to listen? Because he has a very unilateral way of doing business. It's completely different from how
Well, he is a businessman, as I point out that, in Ireland's context we have a very significant trade surplus in the favour of the US when you capture the full relationship. Thank you.
My name is Morten Bødskov. I'm the minister from Denmark. No doubt it's trying times for Europe right now. First of all, I'd like to say that the cooperation with the Polish presidency have been excellent. Denmark is taking over here by July, and it is, as I said, trying times for Europe. Today we have important discussions on industrial policy, future of trade, and in general how to strengthen Europe in these times that we are looking into now. It is important that Europe find new tools to move forward. We need to strengthen our industry, we need to strengthen our businesses, and we need to secure them the best possible ways of growing their business in the environment that we're looking into now. So the Draghi report is, so to say, burning on the tables right now, and we have to find answers for that.
If Trump imposed tariffs only on Danish products because he expects some sort of concession related to Greenland, do you expect that all the European Union countries will run into supporting you?
We are glad for the support that we got yesterday by the leaders of the European Union in Brussels. It is trying times, as I said. We have to stand together, and we have to find new ways to strengthen Europe, both when it comes, as I said, for our industry and businesses, but also and for the Union as a whole. We need to find a way to strengthen our support for Ukraine and their fight for freedom, and we need, in overall, to find ways to move Europe forward in this new world that we're looking into now.
Is that a yes?
It was an answer that we were glad with the discussion that was yesterday in Brussels.
Is Europe united on this?
Sorry?
Is Europe united on trade? Clearly there are some countries which are the leaders who are more friendly, should we say, with this.
Well, the main issue is to find ways where we can use the strength of the Union, and we are working on that, and that's also discussions that we'll have here today.
What's on the EU's offer towards Trump to avoid tariffs, both from your side, from Denmark, and from the bloc as a whole?
Now we're having the discussions. We believe in free trade. We believe that's the way to strengthen the the relationships towards the Atlantic and also to strengthen Europe. Thank you.
Very much. So, Dzień dobry, good morning. It's great to be back in Warsaw, and today, as you know, we have very important topics to discuss because trade and competitiveness goes very well together, and you notice that competitiveness is now the most frequently discussed topics, not only on the level of the leaders of the European Union, but in all Council formation. Therefore, I'm very glad that we'll have also the chance to look at what trade could do more for the European economy to be more competitive. And then in the afternoon, we will have the opportunity to discuss the EU-US relations. Here, I would like to underscore the importance to start our discussion with the new US administration on real facts and figures, because what is very important to look at it in the whole perspective that our deficit, if you look at it from the perspective of the overall trade representing 1.5 trillion euros, represents only 3% of that sum, because if you take both trade in goods and services, the deficit of the US vis-à-vis the European Union is only 50 billion. So we believe that through constructive engagement and discussion we can resolve this problem. We are prepared for this negotiations, but also at the same time it's very clear that if it would be hit unfairly or arbitrarily, we will respond firmly. I think this was very clearly
How are you? Let's take the whole case.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
Excuse me.
Szanowni Państwo Ministrowie, Szanowni Przedstawiciele Komisji Europejskiej, drogie koleżanki, drodzy koledzy ministrowie. Jest mi niezmiernie miło móc powitać Państwa w Warszawie na wspólnym posiedzeniu ministrów do spraw konkurencyjności i ministrów do spraw handlu. Jest to dla mnie szczególna satysfakcja także dlatego, że polska prezydencja jako pierwsza zdecydowała się na organizację spotkania ministerialnego w takim formacie, ale uznaliśmy, że wyzwania, które stoją przed nami, wymagają sięgania po takie nowe, niestandardowe, niestosowane dotychczas sposoby. Na początku Chciałbym przekazać informacje na temat reżimu językowego.